I'd like to call the February 28th workshop meeting, the Verona Borough Council to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Long,
Present.
Mr. Craig,
Present.
Dr. Carpenter,
Present.
Ms. Showalter.
Present.
Okay, who's echoing?
Yeah, okay, I'm trying to fix it.
President Suchovich,
Here.
Mayor Recupero,
Present.
Mr. Flota,
Here.
Ms. Provenza. Present. Stephanie here.
Thank you. Any emergency agenda, additional agenda items? Okey-doke. Registered comments from the public. We have, don't shoot me if I say the name wrong. Courtney, what's that? Courtney Maharonich? Marinich, okay, from DCED. Okay, it says DCED here, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Katie's here with me as well, but Tricia invited me to talk to you guys about some grants.
If you
along-
could state your name and your address,
Oh.
please, for the record.
Courtney, and I'll say my married name, it's a lot shorter and easier. Vita, VITA. That's a good
Can
one.
you turn that mic on, please?
It's on.
It's on.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
Yeah.
And my address is 726 6th Street in Oakmont.
Thank you.
Yeah, so she invited me tonight to talk to you guys about some of like the potential grant opportunities for like the riverfront and the water in the riverfront park. So I'm not sure where you wanted me to start with, but I can kind of just go through the grants themselves and a little bit about the process. And then if you guys have some questions. So I know it's come up in the past couple of years about doing some improvements down at the park. Potentially doing like a site plan, adding new amenities. So when we have met with DCNR, the Department of Conservation and Resources, I think last year, or the year before,
Mhm.
you know, one thing they really suggested if there's a lot of changes to be had, like perhaps a site plan was the ideal route for that. So they have grant opportunities for DCNR that we can assist with to kind of go for those funds. And what a site plan would do is, I was talking to Cheswick about this earlier today too. A lot of times what we would recommend is picking like themes or focus areas that you guys want to look at. So if you want to increase waterfront access or increase angler access. Some things is like increasing community access or through vehicles or through bikes, pedestrians. Some things there's like maintenance. I always can tell everyone maintenance should be a theme. You can put all the bells and whistles, you got to maintain it.
Mhm.
You don't want to put things that you can't maintain over time. You know, and then just how you want people to use the park. You know, do you want it to be more of a green and open space if people just come down, have picnics and sit on the river? Do you want more pavilions, playgrounds and stuff, like some sort of attraction that draws people there? And then the one thing we always, you know, talk to people about too is like, as you develop the amenities within the park, how, you know, choosing materials that will last for the long term. So like sometimes we'll say like, if you put a lot of just mowed grass, you're gonna have to keep mowing it versus if you put more, say, wildflower, like plantings or butterfly gardens, those kinds of things. So with that, so DCNR does a 50-50 match for their grants. So you get 50% from your public, from like yourselves or another public source, and then 50% from DCNR. And the one thing that I talked to Trish about, there are other grants that you can sort of match and start stacking, so that limits the borough's liability. So one of them would be through the Department of Community and Economic Development. They have a program called the Greenways Trails and Recreation Program, that's DCED. They have it should be the same as last year. You never know with them, they'll change it. 15% local match, and then 85, you can apply for up to 85% of your project. And then another one would be the DCED local share account. And that is 15% local match and 85% you could go for the project costs. And those are all grants that you can stack with DCNR to kind of, essentially the goal is always to get your input to zero or as close to zero as you can. We've done this with some other communities for other trail projects. They'll go for, you know, some county funds. There's also, I think it's still GEDTF, that's the county tourism funds. You can go for that. It's something that would draw people to the borough. So there's always a way that we can stack all these together. So right now, the earliest one that's coming up due would be DCNR, and that's in early April. Sorry, I'm getting it now too.
Sorry.
You went
Thanks.
fast.
Thanks a lot.
We're all gonna be talking like smokers soon. Yeah, so that one's the one that's coming up the fastest. Their grants the same every year. They have a formula they recommend you follow or suggest that you follow. I always tell people just follow the exact formula.
Mhm.
But it's definitely something that we can assist the borough in putting together. We've helped with a couple other parks along the riverfronts. We're helping with one in Baldwin. We've, like I said, been in conversations with Cheswick about theirs up there, and we're helping Neutron up in Harrison. So it is something that, that we do, and it's within our skill set. So I'm gonna let it there and see if there's any questions before I continue.
Is this just for riverfront properties like our park down there, or could it be used stuff for our Cribbs
Yeah.
Field
Yeah,
Park up
so
there?
it's all parks and recs. So
Oh,
any
okay.
of your parks, your trails, so you can really use it for any of your recreational facilities within the borough.
Mhm.
So that's the good thing. It's pretty wide range.
I just want to make sure I got this right. So the DCNR is a 50% match.
Yes.
And then the DCED has the local share,
And the Greenways Trails and Recreations and the local share.
and you can use that as towards, our 50%.
Yes.
So, and that's a 15% match, so we'd end up paying like 15%.
Yeah, so you can do it a couple different ways. So
Like
what I
7%.
usually, so DCD are very political grants.
Okay.
So they're all decided by the Commonwealth Financing Authority. So you kind of like if you try to ask them for the full 85, a lot of times your grant doesn't look as competitive because you're relying heavily more on their money
Okay.
than some other money. So what we've done, and we've had some success, is to do the 50-50 split, go to DCD for half and go to DCNR for the other half.
Right.
To make it more competitive, because then they're like, oh, they're putting in 50% of it. And then with all of these, what we usually do with our grants and what we can help is you always let the state officials know. So we would let Representative McAndrew and Senator Costa make sure you get letters of support from them and meet with them and tell them about your project. If you don't get with them, you'll go with their staff and keep them aware of what's going on. Because then when they do come through, they can advocate for your projects. They know about your projects. So that's why with DCD, I have put in for like the higher amounts, like some municipalities are like, let's just like see what washes out, and then they get like none of it. Or they significantly reduce it, and then if you only applied for 50% somewhere else and or 15% of DCNR, now you're only at like, say they only give you half the money, now you're like 65%, now you're 35% short.
No, what I'm asking is, so like, if we
Yeah.
get the ideal of 50% from the one and apply for 50% from the other.
Yeah.
Then our 15% would only be 15% of the 50%, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. The goal is, so we're getting
it'd be
towards
like
100, yeah.
70% of the total.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've had one where we recently, we worked with Harrison to do it. They did 50% from DCNR, and then they asked for about 65 from DCD, because they figured if they gave them less, it should still come in around 50. But the last round of local share, the state did indefinitely postpone. We don't know why. It was probably political, transition of governors. So they said they may come back and, decide to award those, but it really is like a toss up at this
There,
point, unfortunately.
I just talked to somebody today about.
Still
that.
postponed?
It will not go through the first bid. It will be like March 14th
Yeah.
or something like, because they were worried about the switch.
Yeah.
It
I
was-
knew it was something with the governors.
It was literally, well, it was the governor in the house and
Yeah.
everything, and they just waited. So they said March 14th might be the earliest. They may
Yeah.
release something.
Yeah.
And the DCED is the one said you want the officials involved. Is that correct?
Both, anything from DCD, you want the officials, because it goes through the Commonwealth Financing Authority. Yeah, DCNR, it's not heavily political. They have an internal scoring system within DCNR. And then for their trail grants, their trail grants do get reviewed also by the Pennsylvania Trails Advisory Committee, which I happen to also be a member of, but I can't review anything that I'm potentially involved in. I only get one set, or usually out east.
Yeah.
But theirs don't get as heavily political, but it's good to see that the representatives have letters on those grants to see that they are supportive of these projects. Cause they meet with DCNR just as much as like cause like Senator Williams on the north side, she meets with like the secretary quite frequently on projects. So it's good. The more they have, you're kind of giving them the tools they need to advocate.
Right.
Brittany, can you talk to us a little bit about timeline? Are we like, too late for DCNR? Is it still like ample time? And
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you mentioned the DCEG deadlines, but with having to get letters, I feel like.
Yeah, so DCNR, you could still do it. You're cutting it a little close because it's early April. The big thing to get a hold of and get together is the budget. So if like your borough engineer, or if you guys have some firms that you reach out to, they can get you estimates, putting the budget together will be the easiest thing. The other letters, you would ask for recommendation letters, like I said, from the elected officials. They're usually pretty good at turning them around. The only one that might be in question right now is Representative McAndrew, just because he just got there. I don't know what his staffing capacity is currently like, but if you get Senator Costa, you'll be fine with that. You'll also need a letter from the county, a county consistency letter, and that just states that the project's consistent with the county's current comp plan. They do require, I think it's 10 business days to turn those around. So that would have to go in pretty quickly for them to turn your consistency letter. And that is required from DCNR to have. You'll need it even once you're awarded. But the big thing, is the budget and those letters. The grant itself, it's not, I won't say it's easy, but it's not terribly tenuous to put together. The questions are pretty straightforward. The best thing I've always said is like, answer the question, don't go long drawn off. I've read some grants where like the answer to one question is like 5 pages. And it's like, well, what? I don't even remember what the question was about. It's like, it went on so long. The best thing is like keeping it consistent, keeping it to the point, and getting it to exactly what you are applying for. So it's tight for DCR, but I don't think it's out of the realm. I think you still pull it off if you are eager enough.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah,
If we're already applying for a DCED grant, will that affect?
It depends on which pot. So the Greenways Trails and Recreation's in its own
Okay.
pot, and LSA is in its own
Okay.
pot. So if it's like, they have other ones,
Okay.
it's all different pots.
I just wanted to
Same
make
with
sure.
DCNR. DCNR will get like, they prefer to only give 1 to each municipality a year, but they technically have different pots of money through the Keystone funds and then through the Growing Greener funds, which a lot of small municipalities don't get that. It goes to mostly nonprofits. The Keystone's what you're getting, which they have a lot of money in right now because it's funded through the real estate transfer taxes
And the budget you're talking about is the budget
for the project.
for the planning of the project, for the project itself.
So if you're gonna start with the Riverfront Master Plan, you'd have someone get you an estimate for what it would cost to do a Riverfront Master Plan.
Okay.
Yeah, which like most of your borough engineers can get kind of that together. The big thing is to making sure they include public participation. And then if you want any sort of environmental work looked at, like, so if you are talking about increasing access to the bank or to the river, I would definitely make sure they do some environmental, like, is the bank structurally stable to withstand any infrastructure? Cause I've seen some plans where they plan for all these like exciting things on the river and then they go back and look at the river and are, oh yeah, it's not stable to hold any of this. So
Yeah.
it's either you pay millions of dollars to stabilize it to put this in, or you just never do it. So it's good to like know what's coming ahead of time. So just make sure they include some of that stuff in there too.
Awesome. And I probably missed this, Courtney, but what is the timeline of the grant? Like, when would it actually start and how long does it run?
Yeah, so DCNR is due in April. They generally, the earliest they've announced is the fall. Sometimes they've announced on December 31st. So you'll know by the end of the year, but your project, by the time you get under contract, won't be able to start till the spring of next year. So around this time, like March or April. We had some that were awarded last year. We just started getting the letters to proceed like in the past, like week or so. So I always say plan for spring of the following year is what your anticipated start date. And also thinking about that is for your budgeting. So if you do
Right.
think that locally you want to put some funds in regardless, this wouldn't be in your 2023, it would be in your 2024 budget.
That's good.
And then DCD, this timeline on those ones are usually due around May or June.
Right. Okay.
Pretty sure Greenways and Trails is May, LSA is June. and their applications are exactly the same. So that's actually very helpful.
Very.
Because you're really just writing the same thing.
Great.
Anybody else have anything else?
Great. I had Katie come, she's just gonna give you a quick update on the water trail signage project we're doing.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'll let her go ahead. We're really excited about these, so. Yeah.
Katie, I don't even know if everyone got the message. Do you wanna?
Yeah.
update?
Yeah, okay, so,
Name and
You could, I got it, Nancy. You can state your name and address, please, for the record.
yes, my name's Katie Craig, and my address is 4925 Friendship Avenue.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Katie.
4925, yep.
I'm the one who has to write it.
So
Thank you.
recently, there was a PEC mini, water trail grant, round that went out and we applied. We are updating all of our signage standards across all of our launches. So in front of you is our new, this is an example of our Braddock launch signage. We're gonna be putting those in soon. So obviously at some point I will be giving you a paper that says Verona on it and it'll have all your specs and everything like that. So there's about 5 different sign types there. We have wayfinding and orientation signage. So especially in your particular launch space, where you are, oh, perfect. Okay, we have 4 here. In our launch space, it is kind of hidden back there and could use some wayfinding from the streets and from, you know, the main road to here, as well as just general signage on your site. You guys have a really nice launch and a really great site. So I think the signage will be really helpful. And some of the things we're doing with the signage, we're including QR codes to link to the borough website. If you, or to, you know, we can help create a page or something like that, just to highlight some businesses in the area, things that, you know, are nearby, that people can get to from there. And really, do we have one sign down there?
So, yeah, so Verona has a lot of wonderful signs on they're those red tablets. They're not, they blend in.
They
and
do.
fade over time. So that's why we particularly picked Verona, was because there was just so many of them. They kind of took you a funky way to the launch.
Mhm.
Yes.
It's real weird. So we wanted to replace them with these signs where if you're coming down the boulevard, they are much more bright and much more vibrant. You will be able to see them. They also say that it's the water trail. So if someone's looking for the Three Rivers Water Trail, it actually down says Three Rivers Water Trail. So those are the new wayfinding signs down there. And then the big sign, that's a really big thing that we wanted to add, and we worked with the Fish and Boat Commission, is on the information sign is now safety information, boating safety information.
That's great.
Since the pandemic, we've seen a lot of people just like going along, buying a kayak and just going out and seeing what happens. Well, that's not great. It's great if people use the river, we're really excited, but we're all very concerned that no one takes the safety precautions. So now we want to have some general safety information, like you should have like a black and a whistle, you should be wearing a life vest, like even though, and technically in the summer in the state of Louisiana, if you're over a certain age, you are not required to wear one in a non-motorist boat. We highly still recommend that you do it anyways. The other thing that they really wanted to call out was the barge traffic. I mean, Allegheny has been slowing down barge traffic, but they are a huge hazard, and those canoe or kayakers actually can't hear or see them coming because they're pretty quiet. So like, we wanted to make sure that information was available for users that like plan your trip. Someone should know where you're going, where, you know, if you're going out to, you know, the island, did you tell anyone you're going there? So like you don't home, so like, where did they go?
Right.
So it's kind of, you know, information safety, stuff like that, is to just better prepare people as they launch their boats to think about it before, like, you just, and I know rivers is, you know, Mill City.
Yeah.
Mill City growing, you know, they are down, I never where, and they told me they kind of keep an eye on people, but, you know, if they're not there, then is the way we can start capturing those people
Mhm.
and just making sure like, you have these things on you, do you have a life vest? We do actually have some life vests. That we're hoping to start kind of like putting some of them with the municipalities as like a loaner. So if someone's looking for those, so we were gonna work with Still City, we're going to kind of just put a few down there, so as soon as you look and say, I actually don't have one. You know, they should probably go inside and just borrow one and then go out on their boat. And that's our big thing, is just to draw more attention to the water trail, because it is, the Allegheny River is beautiful to kayak. Because we do have a little bit of rice traffic and time to go down to the city and deal with
Yeah.
people and water boats.
Yeah.
And you can come up here and it's beautiful, and you can go down, the Sycamore, the island down there.
10-7 so busy all summer.
Where?
10-7 down there on
They're
Arch.
slim, yeah.
Yeah,
They're busy all the time. We've done a couple events with them and they've been fantastic partners, and they're really excited to see the new signage, because they also help times.
sure, sure.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Not vocal.
On the record, yeah.
And then, like, it's changed in every municipality, sort of like a park rules or a landing rules.
Sign C there.
Everybody's sign has changed depending on where it's at. Keswick had a lot more like, you know, open, dusk, dawn, yeah, dusk.
Dawn to dusk.
On the dots, you know, no open container, no open alcoholic containers, like Braddock is doing no burning, down there. You know, everyone's rules are a little bit different. Some do a lot, some don't do a ton. They always think about the enforcement, like are they doing but that's always something to think about. But some put it on there because they're like, even if we don't go down, at least like, we said not to do it. So if they did it,
Right.
you know, our hands are.
Do you install the signs?
So we will fabricate, and the thing we do ask is that for installation. So what we're gonna do is take off the old paddles off of the current posts, because the posts are still in good shape. And then they would just get pre-bolted in. So that's the one thing we do work with your public works department.
Okay,
To just have them installed. And then I think we might wanna move some of them, because we've been talking about the trail.
Yeah.
I think we want to get a real.
Yeah.
All to like East Railroad and connection to the town.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Because it's a much more direct route instead of like leaving down. I know why they were getting past the Riverfront Park was showing you the park was there, but because it's like a one-way out, it actually makes it confusing.
Right.
So I
What's,
think we just need to move it.
okay.
what's the timeline this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So next steps, we'll be visiting the site with our designer Brendan, who will make a few suggestions as to sign placements at the site. I'll come back with a nice little packet for you with your sign, you know, types out here outlined, the suggested positioning of them, as well as I attached a copy of the language used in the Braddock orientation sign, but we can see, you know, there's rules and things you guys can look at, and we can decide what you want, you know, for your site. And so once we kind of get all that together then, and we can get these fabricated and we can get them in grants over at July 31st. So,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, we're working for the municipalities, so we're gonna try to order them.
Courtney, the people on Zoom, unless you're talking into that mic.
Oh, they can't hear me.
No,
They can-
Oh,
they
they can't hear her.
Yeah, so.
I was just gonna say, so we're working with 4 other municipalities, so the goal is that we're gonna order them in batch, but the big thing for you guys outside of the placement is the content of the signs. So some municipalities, like, they've just reviewed it themselves, and then others have like wanted their solicitor to review it. Fish and Boats already reviewed it, so that like
Fine.
they already had their say in it. But yeah, we always recommend, you know, going through whatever your internal policy is for reviewing that
Yeah.
kind of information.
Cost for these?
we're paying. for
You
these.
pay for them.
Yeah,
So the only cost will be DPW install.
yeah, just because of the bolting. So, but all the hardware and that will come from the fabricator, we're paying for that. And the
Okay.
design costs and all that is, so we do, Katie, when she works with you, we'll try to take all the edits at one time, the more.
Right.
More we send him edits, the more he charges us.
Right.
We send them in batches.
Yeah.
It's
Just tell them you get one shot.
yeah, got one shot, so,
Yeah.
but, yeah, and then like she had said with the one like rule sign, it really is, or as much as or as little as you guys want it to be.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Anybody have any
Katie,
questions?
I do have one more quick question.
You're right.
You mentioned we could have potentially a QR code where people could scan it,
Yeah.
get into a website, and you even said you can maybe help with some things that might be very important for what I would define as like placemaking, tying
Yeah.
into the water trail. I was just curious if other municipalities were doing that, if that would be, I guess like it would be like a borough hosted page, maybe? Okay.
So in Braddock, the Braddock Borough is hosting that site, so it goes directly to their homepage where they then built out a
Business directory.
Ah.
on that. So very quickly you can click there and then it takes them to the business directory and you can see, you know, all that information
I'll
there.
check it out. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've always recommended pick something that's going to be there in the long run. So
Right.
municipal website, your website will probably be there for a very long time, unless the internet doesn't exist at some point.
Right.
Um,
You know,
be interesting. So yes, that's why we've tried to, and like Cheswick's doing a similar thing. They want to go to their site. They will maintain the directory because businesses constantly change. So
Right.
this way, your website's probably gonna be the most up to date of anybody's, or you can use the chamber too. But I always like to do this because if someone does need any sort of, you know, like police or something, they're gonna get that
Sure.
information on the borough site. You're not gonna
Sure.
get that on the chamber site.
Perfect.
We can
perfect.
dock ours. We just did it with pickleball where you can go on the parks page and you hit pickleball and it'll direct you to all the stuff about, so we can, you know, move
Work
things
something.
around. and- Yeah.
Cool.
And I
Yay.
figured out how to do that, so.
Yay. Awesome. Great. Thank you, ladies, for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
We'll be looking forward to hearing from you.
Thanks.
too.
Thank you, you the same. There's nobody else registered comments. Comments from the public. This time council will hear comments on public related items. Please approach the podium or raise your virtual hand and clearly state your name and address.
Laura Jack, sir.
Okay. Laura?
Hi, everyone. This is Laura Jacko, 437 North Avenue. And I just wanted to bring up something because I haven't heard it be discussed recently on behalf of the Shade Tree Commission. I know in the fall we were talking about making sure that there was a budget for tree trimming this year and potentially looking into getting some like a tree trimmer sort of who we work with, sort of like what we do with landscaping, where we have somebody that we just go to who's a professional to do our services. I am bringing it up now because we're kind of coming to the end of when typically tree trimming would be done, you know, during a season when the trees are dormant. So I just want to make sure it doesn't slip through the cracks. And if it's slipping through the cracks for the spring, trying to make sure it happens for the fall. Thank you very much. And oh, if anyone has any questions, just, you know, let me know and I can get everybody connected with the rest of the Shade Tree Commission. Thanks.
Thanks, Laura. Anybody else?
Will we need another person on the Shade Tree Commission? I think there's only 4 and there's supposed to be 5
I think it's on the crib sign looking.
for Shade Tree. Laura, is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that there's still a vacancy. I think last I knew it was being advertised on the Cribs board. I don't know if it got taken down or if it's still being advertised there. Or if it's on the website or not.
We can look into it.
Mhm.
We can put it on the website. I think that'd be good.
We need one for planning commission too.
All right.
Oh, that's right. Planning-
Laura, just real quick, Red will have an update on that, tonight. We did not forget trees.
Okay, I can't stay on for the whole time. Can someone, circle back? Red, can you circle back with me if there's
Yeah.
anything you need, as far as getting quotes and things like that?
Yeah, and actually, Tim and I have been talking and we want to get together with you and kind of do a quick survey of, what we think we need done before we involve anyone outside the borough.
Great.
Okay?
Very good, thank you.
And there are advertisements for Shade Tree Commission and Planning Commission already pre-made from last year.
Right.
Made them. I could just put them up tonight after the meeting.
Awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Thanks,
Vin.
Vince. Okay, nobody else? We'll go to discussion items. I have nothing at this time. Next up, the mayor, update on body cameras.
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have the body cameras in. I spoke to the chief, and there's a meeting with, different departments on April 3rd, on the software. So we are moving forward on, the body cameras. And hopefully by the end of April, we will start, using them, hopefully, that is. And we'll go from there. And I would just like to say, I'd like to thank Luke Maddox and his wife Kathy for taking care of the signboard out there for all those years. We really do appreciate it. And just wanted to just say that we appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yes, thank you, Captain Luke.
Very good, thanks, Mayor. Borough managers items, Stephanie?
Okay, DPW contract, an agreement has been reached. We are finishing up the final stages. So I can go to see both of our attorneys and hopefully it'll be signed in the next week. DPW radios, that was part of a contract agreement. We have found some radios, so we'll be working on getting those put together, getting the channel and getting those up and running, hopefully before summer.
Can I just comment on that? I don't know what happened to that. We used to have our own channel. And I guess it just went on the wayside. We had radios, we had a repeater up there for it, and
It was up in that Cribbs Field.
yeah.
So we're gonna have to look, we're gonna have to look and see if we even still have that number, that frequency. If not, we're probably gonna have to apply for a frequency and go from there.
And I know with the abundance of cell phones, they've changed a lot of the frequencies because cell phones have needed so many, they keep on bumping other groups out of their frequencies.
We're just gonna have to look into it
Yeah,
and see what we
that's
can
right,
do.
Ray, you would probably know more better than I do. I don't know if we could also, before we used to have the channel on the police radios also, and I believe the fire radio.
Well, that's where the problem lies. Since they went to,
Yeah,
since they went to 911 center,
they have
Don
all-
County, all the frequencies, and that's why we got some radios that were donated to us. All the frequencies are spread apart. You can't put a 154 number in a 800 radio
Yeah.
and vice versa.
We, the
400.
police and the fire used to contact, like during a flood, if they needed to get a hold of the street crew while they were out to come up so-and-so's street, they were in order, they could
Well,
reach each other.
Let's look to see what kind of radios we got and
Right.
go from there. We could even leave we're working on an
Well, it's just a
inventory.
thought I
Yeah,
wanted to bring up.
no, we're working on it. Yeah,
Okay.
We were told those frequencies we could not look into them. But not.
you gotta go through 911, you gotta go through the
They
county to
won't
do
allow-
anything with their radios.
And they won't allow anybody but
No.
emergency services
Okay.
on.
I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, no, they got very strict when they went to the 911 center. Cause there was all these little, you go to like any electronics shop and buy a little thing and plug in your frequency. And it wasn't up to snuff, not so to speak. And they shut all that down. If you're not programmed in and your radios doesn't have an identifier on it, you're not on that radio, and they'll find out, So that's the update on that.
Workers' comp audit, we had an audit that was completed last week. We received the results on Monday. And we get back a whole $1.06.
Yes.
So we're all gonna go and buy one piece of penny candy.
Where are you gonna find
Yeah,
penny
that's
candy
it.
nowadays?
Well, you find it, I'll let you know. Again, I just want to keep repeating this. We are still working with Lower Valley Ambulance Service. We do have a meeting with them next week. And a new funding proposal from Lower Valley will be presented at the meeting. Again, to reassure everyone in our community that if you need an ambulance, one will be there for you. Please do not hesitate to call 911. We wish we had more information. We just do not. It's a bouncing ball that we're all just trying to bounce with. As soon as, whatever we know, we'll let you know. There is a volunteer firefighter grant. This is actually for you, Ray. If you guys are interested through FEMA to help get you programs for the volunteer fire department, I will move that information on to you and Dan. If you guys need help, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Is that what this thing is?
Yeah, that's the FEMA firefighters thing.
Okay.
The Civil Service Commission, as we go on with the Shade Commission and the, Planning Commission. We are currently in need of one more member for the Civil Service Commission. There is an announcement currently on our website, non-creative field. The current members are Mary Fearden and Don Conti. So we need one more member. If you're interested, please email me and we will get things working. From our last meeting, the strategic planning grant that Brittany came and spoke about, I met with her today. We will be passing a resolution later on in this session, to begin the grant process. The next step is to update our letter of hardship, which I was actually working on before we got in here, and to get the RFP sent out. And then once the RFPs come back, then we look at them and then we apply. And just so everybody knows, we're not the only borough in this boat, but we're just telling everybody the salt shed is full and we still have more salt to come. So we will be figuring that out as time goes on. I may pray for a snowstorm. I'm sorry, but
It's supposed to snow Friday.
anything, to help us out a little bit.
1 to 3.
Yeah.
This one.
You know, 70-degree weather.
Well, that's okay. Put more salt and snow.
Yeah.
Basically, I told AJ if it did snow, so he can put an inch of salt down.
Yeah, you know, we couldn't even, I think years ago we accepted salt. They put, maybe like 20 ton in our shed and they got 20 ton back, cause kind of ran into the same thing. But our shed, we have a big one and it's full because they're lowering the price because, yeah, they got all the municipalities, you know, paying out. But the subcontractors, you know, they allotted so much and they're like overwhelmed with it. So they're starting them, you know, down.
How much more do we have coming?
If I understand the timeline, we should have till November, and I think it's like I think he said 2 tons. I'll get the exact.
Oh, that's, yeah,
Or maybe 20 tons.
Probably 20.
It's probably 20.
Okay.
1 truckload.
yeah.
It's a truckload.
Yeah, that's
So,
A triax.
What the heck does that?
Oh, man.
big trouble.
A big truck.
truck.
See,
It's a triax, it's probably 20 ton.
so question, so I mean, clearly this is happening everywhere. There's
Right.
no way that Cargill or whoever it is can just say, don't give us any more salt because we can't give it to the boroughs and there's no.
You can say that to them, but you're still gonna owe them for that salt.
Yeah.
You said, there's a
you got-
contract.
Right, but then just order less for
Then
next
we
year.
have a big snowstorm and everybody else got their 500 ton of it and we're only
Yeah.
300
Where are we
ton.
gonna put it?
We're working
We'll
on
work.
that. Slowly but surely, we're
I know
working
that.
on that. I mean, the problem is you can't, it's been ordered.
Right.
We estimate based on,
Sign a contract.
you know, so many years average.
I understand that. I'm
But
just
you can't
curious.
say to Cargill, because Cargill ordered,
Okay.
it brought that salt
Alright.
in. We can't tell them we don't want it anymore.
Okay,
'Cause
so
they have no place to. put
what
it.
are what's the current thinking on where we could possibly put that?
We're hoping that they're gonna let us hold on till November. We're working on that. It became an issue last week when we all realized and everybody, I think all the boroughs realized there was more salt to come.
Cargo sale. We're scheduling your delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
We're working on it. We'll figure it out. We don't have a lot, we unfortunately don't have a lot of choices. We can't say no.
So push comes to shove, you put a big pile of salt down there by the river and put a bunch of tarps on it or what?
Push comes to shove, it might be in your front yard. I don't know.
How-
I don't know.
Well, we're working on it. We can, yeah.
Yeah, we really are. We've been working on it since last week. It's, you know, it's a weird problem to have. Who would have thought it wasn't gonna snow all summer,
Right.
all summer, all winter?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it'll probably snow in June.
Don't
You know,
say that.
You remember the storm in '93? It came on St. Patty's Day parade.
Yeah.
So,
1993.
So, you know,
Friday.
okay,
I'm
okay.
still in high school, so I don't remember that.
All right, next item. Stephanie, thank you. Is that all you have? Next item would be committee discussions. Finance, Nancy?
Yeah, we had our finance committee meeting yesterday at 4:00. And we talked about several things, and in your packet somewhere is the revised minimum fund balance policy. Oh, boy. Hold on, I gotta find my, anyway, the bottom line is that what we have here is to have not less than 2 months of regular general fund operating expenditures as a minimum fund balance policy for the general fund. Which, if you go by last year's figures and, well, last year's unaudited figures, it's approximately 127,000 a month, which would make it 252, 54, whatever thousand minimum fund balance. So, I personally think maybe it should be a little more, but we decided to wait and just see how things pan out with the audit and other things. So for now, that's our fund balance policy. I hadn't heard any feedback other than at the meeting from anyone. So there's still time, but my goal and hope is that on the 14th, we can vote to pass this policy. If I don't hear from anyone, I'm gonna assume that everyone's okay with it.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. We talked a little bit about, sewer fund payback and right now for this year, we have a plan for paying some of it back and again, we're gonna wait for the audit and wait for stamp, analysis and so on and so forth. And we don't have to come up with that right this minute. So we'll wait on that one. We discussed spending limits for a borough manager and Stephanie's gonna talk with Craig about that. We talked a little bit about ARPA and I think Stephanie, you're still working on the budget for ARPA.
Yeah.
So maybe by next month we'll have that.
The biggest thing is I need to figure out what road this year is gonna be paved.
Okay, right.
That's where the biggest thing is. We're working on
Well,
road.
okay, so we found out, I think last time that we talked about this, we wanted to use some money to finish the Center Avenue project, but then we found out that you can't stack on a federal grant or something like that.
Yeah, we're working to figure out if that's what it says.
Yeah, so we discussed briefly about finishing second. So those are some things that are in the works. Also, we will be using some of the money for upgrading the tech in the whole admin building. And maybe use the money for the radios, right? Yeah, I think that'll add up to how much we have that we can spend. And oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Two questions. One is, how are roads, being considered for the paving? Like, are we using, the survey done last year or just?
We're learning some of the survey done last year, but there's been discussion because Second Street was cut short
Uh-huh.
due to flooding.
Mhm.
That right now, might be the time to finish that.
I
And,
gotcha.
and there's also the robotics, result.
Yeah.
I
But
I
that-
honestly can't say that I've ever seen those results,
I know Matt has forwarded it at some point, but
but I probably wasn't on council. when
Yeah,
that happened,
Matt,
maybe.
I don't, but Matt, like you said, it's like to finish Second Street, because it did not get finished due to the flooding and everything. And the money happened to go elsewhere. So like, I will work with Matt on the roads, because I feel like he has a better idea,
Money wise and everything.
money wise and all that, of what roads could be done and.
sure.
what
It'd be
we-
nice to get that out of there, because there's some pretty good bumps and
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll work with Matt on
That
that.
would be nice, yeah.
Let me know when you work with Matt
Yeah.
on that, because Parks and Rec has discussed. Possibly changing the way parking is done on Second Street. And if that goes through, then there would need to be a curb put up along the sidewalk. to prevent- We've talked about it with Matt and with Parks and Rec for about a year now, I think, to. We can increase, because the church was sold recently. There's more events happening at Cribs because we're developing it. And I discussed with Matt last year about possibly angled in parking on the wide side of Cribs where it's cut out. And if we angled parking in there, he thinks it would actually help slow down traffic because people would see a lot of taillights instead of parallel parked. It would actually narrow the.
even on
road.
the Second Street angle parking.
Oh, yeah, also, that's on Second Street, where it's cut out on the crib side. And if we angle parking in there. And if we are repaving the street, I would.
We're not
suggest-
paving that part of it though.
I believe that is.
No, we're only going to south.
South,
Okay,
Just the
okay.
brick, just the brick
I
part.
thought we were going all the way to.
No,
where-
not to my
Because
knowledge.
Originally, it was supposed to go to seven.
No, I don't.
Did Second Street.
That is
3 years ago.
Yeah, that's already the asphalt and everything.
Okay.
But we can look at.
Yeah.
We'll talk to Matt.
If we do that, a curb will be installed, because people will roll right up on the sidewalk.
Okay.
My other question for you, Nancy, was, did you guys talk about having any sort of, public input for the ARPA spending?
No, we didn't.
Okay, just curious.
No.
Well, you know, my meeting is very open. I know it's not necessarily specifically advertised every month. But it is on the website. I send everybody on council my
You do,
agenda,
You do.
posted my agenda. Anybody is welcome. I value all feedback and information from anybody.
And we will make sure that that budget is released.
Yeah.
Before anything happens.
Awesome.
I mean, the big thing is, every other day, we're changing what we can spend the money on, and as you know.
Right.
The problem is there's so many ties, and then there's. One thing that wasn't allowed is now allowed, now something else has been allowed, so it's figuring out what's allowed and, you know, making sure that everybody, including us, understands. Just because we wanna use it for that, we're not allowed.
Can we or whatever,
Sure.
right?
I'm spending a lot of time reading opinions right now.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So yeah, that's it for me then.
Thanks,
you.
Nancy.
But I do want to
Oh.
let you know that there was a COG meeting and there's some information I wanted to share and I don't see it on the agenda. So if you want me to add it at the end or do that now, tell me what you would prefer.
Can we do now?
Isn't there nothing on it for
Yeah,
Pog?
on business.
Yeah, go ahead.
There was a COG meeting on February 22nd. And well, just to back up what Stephanie had said, there was more discussion about the ambulance service. Which changed because back in the previous meeting, they had kind of. You know, said they were done with the ambulance service, but now the ambulance service is having this meeting next week and. So on, so that was a topic of discussion. By the way, COG meetings, which are the fourth Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Or at 6:30, actually, at now Springdale Township, Borough Building are open to anyone who wants to come. Anyone can come and sit in the audience and listen to what they have to say. there's a gentleman by the name of Dan Cohen who's coming next month to talk about Comcast and I don't grants, I guess, that you can get. I'm not really sure what he's talking about. I'm just saying he's a guest speaker and he's coming in March. And that would be March 29th, I believe. I'm not sure, did you all get the email from Mike Ferris? He's involved with the Allegheny River Development Corporation.
Mhm.
Okay, anyway, I think he's part of the Army Corps of Engineers, maybe I just got it because I'm the car, I will forward it to everybody tomorrow. He wants us to talk to our federal and state representatives about making sure that the locks are, given the money that they need to stay open, because some of the.
There's a lot of fundraising goes on for that.
Yeah, there's the ones upper, in the more upriver, especially, are not open 24 hours anymore. And so
They want to close one of them down, I think.
yeah, I think that's what he's worried about. So, I apologize. I thought everybody got that email, but I will send it around to everybody.
Thank you.
And I think that was the main gist of what was discussed. Oh, the other thing was the appeals thing, for, Craig actually gave last month a presentation about putting together an appeals board.
Right.
Something that's very rare, but very important if you ever need it. And there's some things that need to come from COG, including municipal agreements and bylaws and an ordinance creating the board. And they talked about that briefly.
Would that be a Corona board or a cog?
No, COG.
COG, yeah.
And this would be more for like businesses when they appeal.
Okay.
You have to have a separate board for this.
Right, and if you don't have one, and there is an appeal and we don't have a board, then the person appealing automatically wins. And I think this is something that's been missed in the past, so they're trying to get on it and get it done.
Right.
So. That was an unusually informative COG meeting. So, anyway, that's all I have for that.
Thanks, Nancy. Next up, Red, recreation and community events, Mr. Craig.
Yeah, there's park policies, like specific, I'm not exactly sure what that is.
Right, we meant to brief you.
Oops.
Do you wanna start us off, Stephanie? or-
Sure.
Okay.
Our question is, as we go through this and people are starting, groups are starting to use the park more and more, what are the agreements that we have? I guess what we're saying is, since we're gonna go with Teresa and I are new, we're learning everything, people are starting to send things in. And we're trying to figure out
What you can approve and
what
what
we can't approve. So what I need is, and I think maybe Red, you and I, and maybe Vince and Tim need to sit down and try to figure this out, because what's happening is, no defense to anybody. One group's getting it, and they're literally getting it almost every day, so our parks stop being available to the
they're not
public.
public parks anymore.
Yeah, so we need to figure out how we want to deal with that.
Well, can I just say, without remembering all the specifics, that a year or two ago, before Janet Luella left council, there was a big hoopla about the agreement with RAA. And I really couldn't tell you whether that was finally decided upon and signed. I think it was.
Doesn't have anything to do with.
It couldn't hurt to take a look at it to
I mean, it
clarify.
does, and I mean, the agreement with RAA is for them to maintain the baseball fields.
Oh, that's what it was.
Not be charged park rental for 8 years. Park rental.
So to
Right,
clarify,
that's right.
it doesn't state that they have free use of the park.
Yeah.
At
it
all
doesn't
days and
say that they
times.
can use the park whenever they want or anything. That just states they will maintain the baseball diamonds, the sand court. If
Perfect.
they need cut out, they need weeded, that they will do that, or DPW will not do that.
But the question becomes. And it's not just them,
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
that policy,
yeah,
that's.
but what, I mean,
Agreement.
the problem we have right now is. Everybody's followed the rules, but
Well, that was my other question, because the policy that Vince, your committee wrote last year.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it.
Okay, I believe it did limit the number of hours per day and the number of days per week.
Yes, I can read it. The policy states that park can be monopolized by any one person or organization, meaning reservations cannot be longer than 8 hours and or more than 4 consecutive days per person or organization. So.
Is that per week, per month, per,
For
just
consecutive.
4
4 days in a
consecutive
row.
days?
Yeah, so you can rent it 4 days, then you have to give it up. And then 4 more days, you have to give it up. You can't rent it for 6 days a week or 5 days a week. If you try to rent it Monday through Friday, that's monopolizing it because you're taking up every weekday.
And I remember when my kids were young in the RA, at that point, you were not allowed to reserve it on Sundays.
Oh, right.
That was reserved for public use. You could use it. If you went there and no one was using it, you could
That's
use it.
kind of why we started our football league on Sundays. Because we couldn't reserve it Monday through Saturday.
Right.
It was being used by either Twin Borough Soccer or RAA Monday through Saturday.
Right.
So the only day that we were able to actually run a football league was on Sunday.
Right.
So. I don't know, I think we need to.
If that's the policy, no more than 4 days, that's something that kind of answers the question right there.
now here. Okay.
I think Stephanie's trying to get a feel for what she's allowed to give and what she's not allowed
I
to
mean,
give.
and herein lies the question.
Okay.
That's great and grand, but I don't think that was a rule that was followed last year. So for us to go, and then they send us the stuff. And we didn't,
Well, this wasn't passed until about July of last year, so
Okay.
their applications would have already been in.
okay,
So this is new for this year.
this is new
Yes.
for this year, okay.
I got on council in January of last year, and that was the first couple policies I worked on, and it took until. I wanna say end of June
And we need,
before we got it passed, and by that time, everybody's stuff was already.
okay, because then we need to sit down, and if this may be a RA may not
Well, they
know.
might not even know that exists.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
So we may have to sit down and speak with them.
Oh, boy.
Is there a place in the office where there's all these policies that, like, okay, so Vince just pulled that out of his
We are working on this
briefcase.
as we speak. We
That's
are-
what all the policies are.
Well, that's what I'm asking, yeah.
I know,
Tristan.
that's what I
Trish
put it.
and I already talked about that. We're actually working on binders for all the policies. By committees, all of the ordinances and all of the resolutions. So
If you need help, I'm willing to come down and give you a little hand or
yeah,
whatever.
we are working on that. I mean, but, some of this stuff, it's it's coming in. And, like REA came in and we were like, oh, ow, like we called, but we're like, we're not, so we can talk to them and I'm sure there's some compromises that we can make with them. I mean, the only weekend I'm not sure about, but we'll see what we can do.
I mean,
Enjoy.
we made compromises with pickleball, we had to, and it was a simple compromise, they split their time up to where they let other people play.
Yeah. So,
It was a public park, so it has to
We'll
remain
I'll say it later.
public park for most of the time. Yeah, and you can't put park every day of the week. Cause then what that's saying is if you have a kid in this town and they want to go and play on the baseball field, they have to now pay RA money.
Yep.
And that's not what we wanna get into.
I think it's interesting. We didn't restrict weekend to weekend to weekend booking.
Yeah, I mean, it can be amended. We were trying to trial run and I do, in hindsight, agree with that because that could also constitute monopoly is if an
Right.
organization
Right.
books every Saturday and Sunday for the whole summer.
Right.
So
now I
if
can't,
anybody has any wording that would help alleviate that issue, we could amend the policy and freshen it up.
No, I agree. They
Force
should,
up.
I agree. They should be allowed to monopolize it. It is a park for the Verona residents, the taxpayers. They have, in my opinion, and I believe it's in the agreement, you know, with Cribs, but who knows where that policy or that, is. It's Verona people, you know, it's for the people of Verona.
Now that-
In the
But
past,
you cut a deal with RAA to take care of the baseball field, so we have to be careful where we go with that.
And that's what I was gonna bring up, but I think we also have to talk about. That deal is to use the fields.
Yeah.
If they want the concession stands, that's a completely different animal.
Oh, yeah.
And they're gonna have to pay to use the concession stands, you know, that's not part of taking care of the field.
That's a policy that we're also working on.
Yeah.
And that's a completely separate policy,
Right.
because that's gonna be. It's gonna have to, it's the entities in town that are planning on using the concession stand on a continuous basis, not just one time, one shots.
Right.
So that might be Twin Borough, it might be the church that does the summer lunch program.
Yeah.
It might be
I
Vernon.
think we just need to tweak it all.
Yeah.
We need to tweak these,
Mhm.
bring them up and get them out, and we'll tweak them and as committees or whatever and go from there.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing with the concession stand usage is. We're kinda in blind territory and we don't know what the problems are gonna be until they happen.
Right?
Sure.
So we can make a policy, it could be completely wrong, or we could. Kinda do a working. Evolving policy and. Let the entities use them, and as they see problems, they could give feedback to the committees as to what the policy will need in it.
And I do know
So-
that last year, when we needed the concession stand, they were more than, they just didn't use it. It happens to be the weekend that's causing us quite the consternation is, they're having a huge tournament.
Who's they?
All right, well, I'm not, it's going, I'm not sure if it's RA.
No, it's whatever, it's RAA and a whole bunch of other towns.
RA
Like,
is sponsoring it.
They're sponsoring it, but they're invited to Deer Lakes and.
Yeah.
All these teams will come in
Because
and
they
play.
aren't in-house
And
anymore,
it's
they travel.
July 1st.
I already looked.
So that's what we're all trying to figure out, but from what I understand. Last summer, they were able to say, we're sorry, you can't use it, and they never said a word. It became an issue on, just from this one day, because they had a tournament, we didn't realize it was a tournament. There was some confusion, we had put the dates in, we didn't realize it was a tournament.
I mean. It's Brian's tournament.
Yeah.
They have worked with us in the past. With the town. with- We've had other. Whether it be, we had a kickball tournament at one time and they rescheduled one of their games to be in Oakmont. There was one week where we actually canceled football so they could have makeup games, so. We have worked with them in the past and it might be something just as simple as they could have the tournament there. It might start Thursday,
Yeah,
Friday and Saturday. And then when they have their championship games on Sunday, which I think that's when the double booking is.
Yeah.
They could maybe just have the championship games, cause there's a lot less people in the tournament when it comes to Sunday, people are knocked out. They might just be able to have that at Creekside or Riverview for the final day,
you know,
so.
maybe you want to make a touch, Brian. Yeah, sit down and we'll all talk to Brian.
That'll probably see them before we.
He's my next door neighbor.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, I wanna be mindful, he is a Verona resident.
Yeah.
so,
No, he has worked with us in the past. He's not hard to deal with. He understands that.
Okay, Red, but any chance you can get a hold of him and talk to him about this, or would you rather not and let Stephanie? Okay,
Okay.
you could do that and converse with Steph.
They might even be able to
give us,
adjust the time
yeah, we can.
and not
adjust
play in the
time.
morning and
Yeah, I'll
play
talk
at
to you and
night. so.
make sure I have the details of the conflict.
Yeah, find out the
before I-
confliction time and go from there.
Okay,
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
And we are grateful for the work of our AA and the collaboration, just
Absolutely.
to make that clear.
yeah, no, I don't wanna insult this was nothing about that.
No.
It was very disconcerting when you looked at the calendar, all of a sudden, it was like, oh. And you talked about Shakespeare in the Park and you guys are talking about other stuff and I'm thinking, how is this all gonna happen at the same time?
Right.
That's why I thought this would probably be the time while it's still early in
Yep.
the season.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Let us know what's going on with that, Red, would you
Yep,
please?
yep.
Next,
Next is, the trees, as Laura brought up, and we have it on here, after talking with Matt and Craig, you know, we kind of decided that, like, the trees that are over the road and along the road, that even though they might not be ours, that we should take care of them, just get them done. So, my question is how do we want to handle this next? I know Tim and I and Laura we want to go and do like a survey of our own, but do we want to hire an arborist to come in and talk about what needs done? Do we want to go with a tree service that has an arborist? And get their opinions and to work from?
So are
I think a
you,
tree service with an arborist is the way to go.
you're aware of the Beaver Jack debacle?
Yeah,
Okay.
and at our meeting last week, we talked about it. I have a company that the owner of the company is an arborist and like he is part of the crew.
He's on site.
He's on site, he came and took a tree down out of my yard and like, he was right there, he was leading the team. They were a very professional group. I mean, more professional than any I've ever seen, 'cause, like, all the guys in their helmets had mics and earpieces that they were constantly talking to each other. And like, I was there in the yard and like, I could see their lips moving, but like, they weren't yelling over their equipment or anything. They were just talking to each other, so everyone knew exactly what they were doing.
What's the name of this company?
It's Lao Bloom, trees, Lao Bloom, Lyle.
PLOOM?
Yeah, it's actually his name.
Uh,
Yeah.
Nice.
And then what I thought was, you know, if we go that route,
We might not be able to get all the trees this year. We might, you know, depending on the price.
correct, I understand that, and I'll make sure he understands that. And then, like, once we get a plan from him, we can go with maybe other tree services and say, this is what we want done. Give us a price for it. So then we're comparing apples to apples to
Right,
apples. I
right.
know last year, right after I got on, we got a series of bids from tree services and not one of them were talking about the same trees, so it wasn't like, we couldn't even consider them.
Right.
Yeah, I do think that the highest priority, I'm not sure what you're talking about, the other trees, the ones in Cribs or wherever they are, but on the boulevard in East Railroad is where the other company attempted to do it, said they had an arborist. The arborist was nowhere to be found. And they did the ones on East Railroad and messed them up and they never even touched the ones on ARB, which really need to be done because they're starting to grow into the wires.
Yeah, and then plus the other ones that are my concern are the ones on Ridge that were making a tunnel there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Ridge is bad. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get somebody in and get some ideas
I'll
and,
contact him
and,
I mean, I'll meet with Tim and Laura and
Okay.
try and either get together or individually survey and get together and make plans of what we feel needs done, and then I'll get a hold of him
and Nancy, you're talking about, ARB, you're not talking down the road, you're talking right in a business district.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
Those are all trees
Right.
that were planted for free by
Right.
wise.
right,
And the promise with getting those trees for free is to maintain. them,
right.
keep
I
them up.
understand that. Right.
That's what the issue with trees and cribs. There are several pine trees that have a disease that is highly contagious to other trees. And they need to be removed. And they were trees that were just put in, I believe, last year.
In Cribs,
Yes.
pine trees.
Yes. They're yellow.
Okay, is
They're
Laura aware
supposed to be
of this?
green. Yes, they're supposed to be
Okay.
green. They're yellow. They have, we Googled it and took a picture of it. And it's some sort of,
Okay.
some sort of light that needs to be taken care of.
Okay, Red, if you can do that, that'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else, Red?
No, that's all for me.
Okay, public safety, Mrs. Provenza.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Yesterday, Tim Vince and I met for the Public Safety Committee. And, the first thing on our agenda was South Avenue Park. That's creating a problem in many ways, and, discussion was whether we need to, make a new or revised ordinance at this time. So, that's where we're at with that.
Well, I don't think they could find an ordinance.
We did,
Oh, we did?
we found an ordinance, but it can't be used
Why?
because it's on Front Street, so. So it's.
So don't we
South-
make an ordinance for South?
Yeah, so essentially the.
Front Street used to be the boulevard.
Used to, yeah, so it's really old, and you keep, since Front Street no longer exists, so what essentially.
Front Street does exist.
Yeah.
A little bit of,
Right.
By-
It's long.
but this ordinance states the intersection of Front Street and South.
Oh,
So that's
geez.
how old this ordinance was.
Well, I would suggest, if it was me, I would just suggest we do both sides of South Avenue, no parking.
Here's what the committee came up with, just so you know, no parking on the south side, which would be the dentist office. And then 2-hour parking on the north side, which we decided by the church, because if the church has a funeral or something. You want people to be, able-
Church.
or church, you want people to be able to park there,
Hey, would that be 7 days a week or just Monday to Friday?
Monday to Friday, and it'd be no parking at all. On the south side. Ever.
Yeah, I think we said maybe Sunday.
I say, that's what I'm worried about is.
Sunday.
members Having a place to park.
Sunday, I think we were gonna allow parking all day on the north side of South, which would be the church side.
Okay.
Just on Sunday, every Monday through Saturday, it would only be 2-hour parking.
Okay.
And we suggested that if we get this passed and we get the signs made. On the signs, we make sure we tell the side that's allowed parking to angle their wheels toward the curb. Because everybody that parks on that hill leaves their wheels straight, and that's just an accident
And
waiting to happen.
what we're hoping then is on South, we'll stop all the businesses and people who live on ARV from parking. Right there.
Yeah.
And getting a parking permit
So no permits on,
now.
A lot of the parking I've noticed has been people parking on South, walking down the hill, getting on the bus.
Right.
Going to Pittsburgh. So if we do 2-hour parking, see if that helps alleviate. And no parking on the dentist side, so
Right.
that'll free up 3/4 of the road. Right now, the roads get cut in half because we're parking on both
Yeah, you
sides.
can't get up and put the
Yeah,
first part there. But you should also put in there, in the ordinance, for church funerals, we will put no parking such and such time, for funeral. They would have priority for a funeral.
Oh, yeah. That would just. That is my question, is that just a matter of putting up signs?
Yeah.
For funeral?
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, we'll put no parking funeral.
Okay.
Yeah. The throwaway
yeah, we don't
signs.
need to make a motion or vote on it. So
We'd have to go out to get Craig to write it.
I didn't know we just voted on that.
Yeah,
so we have to advertise it.
Well, we'll have to
Yeah.
vote all of that on in March when I get them. We get that far.
all right, very good.
That's tomorrow.
Okay. Maybe it's the 14th, so,
Oh, I thought you were gonna have it done tomorrow.
yeah, no, yeah,
between midnight and morning.
no. Going home.
The next item on our agenda was current parking fees. And we reviewed the different fees to determine whether they should be increased or not. We actually got a copy from the fees that are current, and every one of us thought they were extremely low. So discussion was to raise these fees.
How much are they now? Believe they're,
And I will investigate what the boroughs around us are charging. So we have.
Okay, so it's a work in progress
It's a
right now.
work in progress,
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't wanna, make ours so that,
No,
I just saw somewhere was raising theirs.
quite a few people are talking about it.
If you get a ticket in Pittsburgh, it's $60. The ticket here is $5. So,
You mean for 2 hour parking? It's more, oh, 2 hour park is 15. I was just. gonna
yeah, I
say.
mean, even any parking violation in Pittsburgh is normally $60. You park by a hydrant, you actually park by a hydrant, it's a lot more.
Oh, yeah,
If you
ours,
park in a no parking zone, it's $60. You let the meter run out with $60, like,
yeah, ours is ridiculous at $10 for a fire hydrant.
yeah.
All right, well,
We're looking
We're
at.
looking at putting that
the
like.
committee can look into that and come back with more suggestions then.
We
Awesome.
do have to ask Dr. Craig about what
What you have to do
what
to
we
do it.
can do legally. Like what the minimums and or what the maximums are.
And they'll all have to be be resolutions.
All right, thank you.
The next item on our list was fire hydrant violation fees, and we've already discussed it. They're extremely low and they definitely need to be.
Just like the parking fees, we'll look into that and see what we can do. All right,
And the next item was a meeting time change, and discussions were made to maybe change that regular meeting from 2 p.m. in the afternoon to 6 p.m. in the evening. So a lot of people work and they'd like to be here, but they can't. So we'd like to see if that change could be done, and maybe by April, if that's possible.
It will have to be, and we called Craig and got it, and it.
because it was advertised.
Yes, it's an advertised meeting, so.
We're gonna have to pay to advertise that again.
Well, what we think would be the smartest idea and would save us a whole bunch of money is advertise the ordinance, the
Bump
meeting,
them together.
pump as much
Okay.
together as we can. So that's, and then it has to, it has to be posted for so long, so. I would guess the first 6 o'clock meeting would be April 8th, because I think it's at 10 business days,
To be advertised,
yeah.
I think so.
could be 7 or 10.
Yeah, so it's just, by the time we get, so we have to approve the advertisements on the 14th.
Okay, very good.
The last item was benefits for part-time police officers, and I think
We just,
have talked about that.
yeah, that's really not something we should be talking about. It's a personnel issue.
Mhm.
Oh,
So that would have to be
That would be
discussed at an
exec
exec session.
Right.
Those are personnel issues.
okay. Well, we need one more person.
I already did that.
But you
list,
did,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Are there any questions on any of this? This is the items that we had discussed.
Nobody have any questions? Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Communications, Mr. Flota.
Okay, we had our meeting last week and we discussed a whole bunch of stuff, but I'll just give you the cliff notes. We talked about any future council business or announcements that would be put in the Grown newsletter, so we remind everybody if you have anything to start getting it ready for the next issue. We also discussed, again, I brought up at the last meeting, is committee chairs and presidents of council proper use of text alert system for important announcements. And as of now, just call Stephanie, have it put out, but we're thinking about a policy in case she's on vacation or if she's not around, who would send out a text alert. So we can't realistically expect her to be available 365 days a year.
Didn't we discuss that a couple months ago about who can do that, who can't?
It was the borough manager, like, I believe it was the mayor.
Yeah, that's it, because the mayor is the
Right.
So do you know how to use
emergency
it?
management.
No, I don't know how to do that, no.
Okay, so we'll have to teach you how to do that.
I mean, did we make a policy on that or just
We
discuss?
did, we just
Or you can call
discussed it.
Curtis.
We just discussed it.
Right.
So I'm asking council what their thoughts are on it, like what is the way around this problem? We discussed many different things. But maybe only having committee heads be able to contact Curtis to put announcements out, because
Well, Curtis don't do it no more. You mean,
Curtis he will do it.
He will do it if I'm gone.
oh, okay.
See,
He didn't do it
Right.
per Christine's request.
Yeah, Yeah.
And she said, basically told Curtis. Nobody's allowed to send you anything
I mean,
anymore
we
unless
need
it
to
comes
watch,
through me.
yeah, we need to watch what goes on it because it only can do so much
Right,
at a time.
Then we get billed after a certain amount of messages.
I mean, I don't have a problem, you know, if I'm out of town. So, right,
Or busy.
or busy,
If,
yeah.
if somebody calls you, committee head calls you and you say, listen, do it yourself. But everybody, every committee head will need some sort of training on that or protocol on how to do it.
Yeah.
So whether, you don't have to technically use Curtis, you can do it yourself, but it's, if
It's
you're
not,
trained to
yeah,
do it correctly.
it's not a simple process. I
No,
will
it
say
isn't,
that.
but I mean, it can be learned, so.
I mean, it can be learned once, I mean, once you do it once, if you're computer savvy, you can do it again. If you're not, it's
Call
not.
Curtis.
Yeah, call Curtis.
So,
Print out the instructions.
yeah, I'm just, bringing it up because it's gonna happen. We're gonna have an issue where something needs to be put on a text alert, like we just had a water main break the other day. And if both the mayor and Stephanie aren't available, somebody should be able to step in and fill that role.
thank you. Excuse me.
So, the next thing was I asked people for suggestions on the new public meeting format for hybrid meetings. We are currently gonna go through a list of pros and cons of Google Meet, YouTube Live, etc. and Zoom, obviously. They all have different features. We talked about it in the past, but now we're compiling pros and lists, a list of pros and cons. We'll bring that to council and then we can put pins and flags on what are the most important pros and most detrimental cons, and then we'll make a decision on that. Other thing that we talked about, and I would like to throw this to all of council, is we talked about earlier using ARPA money for upgrading tech in council chambers. And I would like suggestions from everybody that sits in here of what you think is needed. Do you think, what are priorities? Cameras, microphones, routers, laptops? In that way, I could make a compile list and we could triage it. We could say, you know what we really need is new wiring. The wiring stinks. It's going in and out. Or what we really need is a new projector because it keeps cutting off, which it hasn't. So, but if anybody notices problems that I don't notice or have been problems in the past that I'm unaware of, let us know. And we're gonna start compiling a list to get ready.
Do you?
It's definitely gonna start asking ARPA for it, so.
So to reduce repetitiveness, do you have a list already
No,
started?
I didn't, cause I didn't wanna do double work. I wanted to make sure that we all were aware of it at the same time. And that way we could all make lists, send them to me. And if you have cameras, if Red has cameras, if Sylvia has cameras, Tim has cameras, then cameras is obviously a big issue, and I will compile a list like that.
Okay,
If somebody only has, I want a new pencil holder and it's only one person who wants a new pencil holder, we're not upgrading that tech. So I think that's the fairest way to do it because we all use it and we all have different input on what we need.
I went,
Sylvia one of them. She went you there.
Vince,
That's not really tech, but we can get
No,
speakers
it's
in it.
not.
Vince, I wanted to add to that, feel free to think a little bit creatively because we've talked from time to time about allowing the chambers to be used for perhaps some community events. So, if the community would like to have a meeting or a show, a movie, moving the park, moving the chambers, how could we make it more community friendly for everyone?
I'm glad you said that, because we do plan on not canceling any movies in the park this year. Because we're moving them down here strictly, and if it rains, I wanna have them right there. So
So
that
one
way,
of the things we'll have to look at is how can we take the tech down?
yeah,
Well, yeah, better stated.
well, that
How
tech
can
company
we do
that
what?
I gave you, they'll do all that.
Hide the tech.
If that needs replaced, they'll pull it down, they'll move it. if it
I'm
needs
talking
to.
like microphones, stuff like that, because you'd be amazed how many people will sit and
I
look
know.
at them when they're sitting there while people are voting.
I know, I know.
When do you need the
I mean, we're not looking into doing the ARPA stuff for this until what? The end of May, May. So, within the next month.
Yeah,
So.
cause I think we definitely need a camera in here going.
I think we need one there and one there.
Yeah.
For public meetings, whatever, this way it covers us.
And we have that one, but it's just a security.
Yeah.
If we had a camera there and a camera there, we could do split screen, and that it ties into what. Platform we want to use for streaming also, because. Zoom isn't the end all be all. There are other
Right,
ones that are better, and we might be able to have a council meeting where it's a split screen. And you have a camera there and a camera there, so it will show the audience and show the council both at the same time. But that will all tie in together, so
I'm pretty sure that, Oakmont uses YouTube.
they do. That said, a lot of people are going to YouTube Live because it's just a live stream. And then when you're done, it's already on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right now, we're waiting. After this meeting's over, I'll have to wait for this to
Convert.
convert
Yeah.
on Zoom.
Yeah.
And then I have to take it and take the actual hard file and put it on
Right.
YouTube and then
Yeah.
wait another hour and a half.
Yeah.
So
Extra
it,
steps.
it could save potentially.
Yeah.
you
save a
know,
lot of time and
Yeah,
stuff.
1,000 hours a year. So,
Very good.
Look at that when your first movie in the park, I'll get some trinkets from the, you know, like I do.
We have it. It should be actually, we should have an article in the newsletter whenever.
It's,
Okay.
it's May,
Everybody
isn't
got
it?
And that's all I have.
Yeah, May.
Oh, I did, in my meeting, I don't know why it was brought to my meeting, but. It was, during my communication meeting. The need for Verona representative on Lower Valley Ambulance Service was brought to my attention.
We did discuss that last month.
That, it is on the Cribs board. I
Yeah.
did put a civil service committee ad on the Cribs board last night. But they suggested that in the past. Pat McCarthy was on
Right.
the Lower Valley Ambulance Committee, and it might be good since. This has been vacant for a while.
I thought Pat just got off there within the last 4 or 5 months.
I don't know.
No,
It was a little over a year.
Jamie Lavelle asked around this time last year,
So
I think.
it was brought to my attention that maybe council would just appoint somebody, either from council. But I don't think it should be even limited to council because other town, like Stephanie said, Oakmont has a lot of two firefighters on
A
it.
firefighter and then somebody else.
Yeah, so maybe we want.
Yeah.
Do you maybe want to ask anybody up the firehouse if one of them would be willing to?
I
work
can,
with
yeah.
them? And I don't want to just say, hey, let's appoint someone tonight, if there's a couple firefighters that might be interested, and they have more. Experience dealing with emergencies, an emergency budget as opposed to,
And also somebody, that likes to do finance.
and. Nonprofit, you guys are the volunteer fire company, so
Could
they
we,
have background in everything, Lower Valley.
Probably have 2 on there, I would think, if you could get 2.
I don't know, I think there's like one seat open. I'll have to check.
Oh,
I'll
But you
check
can
it out.
wait a month, they'll pick another one.
Yeah.
That's a,
Yeah.
rotating door with
yes,
nonprofits
follow the
nowadays.
bouncing
Well,
ball.
and you could have like a representative and an alternate
yeah.
Yeah.
type thing, so.
Could we put this also on the website and the Facebook page, the Lower Valley Ambulance Services looking for a board member? Particularly with background
think
in
it is.
finance?
I
I thought there was something.
we have it on the Krebs field board.
It's not on our
I
website?
can put it on our website.
And the Facebook as well?
And it was brought to my attention that we should put the YouTube link on our website
It's
for our
already- yeah.
meetings, and it has already been. Very speedily put on there by Stephanie, like. Not even a day after I asked her to, so that was brought up in our committee meeting, and it's already been handled, taken care of. So when you go to the main page of our website, it has a little link, click on it, go to YouTube, and watch all of our meetings.
Where's the link?
It's right on the front page underneath the YouTube stuff. It says, missed a meeting, watch it here.
Very good, Vince. Thank you.
Real quick, this signboard out there, maybe advertise if anybody wants to volunteer. To put, put things on the signboard out there.
Yeah, we can do that, It was brought up that signboard is not really,
We should have an
it's
electronic
not,
one in the
yes,
future.
it's not really fair at the moment, because if we have 3 events happening in the same week, you can't put all 3 events.
Right.
So
That
now we got
signboard,
pick-
Vince and I put it, what's up there now on it the other day, and it has 4 lines on it. You can get about 15 characters per line, so you can't really put more than one event on it at a
Well,
time.
we ought to look for a grant too, some type of.
We are.
Yeah.
Definitely.
After me and Red went down, and looked at it. It's not only the size, it's starting to rust, it's held together, to change the letters, you have to get a
Yeah,
drill driver and take
everything. else.
self-tapping screws out of it, and then hope that the plexiglass doesn't fall over and break, and there's sharp pieces of metal on it.
It was donated by
Yes.
Mr. Eiler from Eiler's Heart.
It's got its
It-
use.
it got its
I
use.
think it's time to
It
update
did,
it,
most definitely.
so I think we're just gonna limp through the rest of this year until we can figure out a way to replace it and get something better and more fair for everyone.
And Vince and I were talking.
Maybe ARPA can
If we
take
get
care
an
of some.
electronic one, it can tie into the one at Chris.
Yeah.
So like you wouldn't need another controller. You just
Maybe
need
ARPA
those
can,
ones.
maybe we can look into that in ARPA.
Yeah.
God only knows.
All right.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
probably taken out by
Can
now.
we get that under ARPA?
We're gonna look, but like I said, it could be there, it could have been there yesterday.
I mean, we
Keep
still-
going Today.
We still have a grant out there for the parks also, I believe, is that specifically for Riverbank though?
Yeah.
So,
And ADA.
so, I mean, they're available every year,
Yeah.
and the first step is I'm gonna talk to Matt and have him separate what the actual sign that we got at Cribs. He can separate that from the invoice of the grant and find out what we paid for that, and then we'll have at least a ballpark figure of what we're looking for. Okay, 2 more things real quick, they both have to do with picnic tables, I know everybody's really excited about this.
I am.
We don't have an update on the damaged picnic table at Cribs just yet. We are following up with the chief. We're waiting to hear from him about what's going on with that. We're also waiting to hear from the solicitor as to,
Other items.
yes, whether we can pursue this
Pursue
any
it further.
in a different manner. And the
Other
other picnic
item?
table news is we have 2 extra picnic tables that are being stored right now. That were bought by the contractor whenever he was late. Doing Cribs, and
the
as
wood
a show of
ones.
good faith, he bought us 4 wooden picnic tables. 2 of them are currently being used down here at Railroad Park Pavilion, and the other 2 potentially will be used for maybe the community garden this year, once we get a shade structure put up there. So we do have 2 picnic tables ready to use once we get something going.
I have a question. The picnic tables under the pavilion, or I don't know if they're out there right now, but
Yeah,
the one, at least, the seats are really warped.
we got 'em for free.
Right,
Those
I
are
just
the
wonder
Jesus.
if the ones that we have that are being stored,
They're the
can
same exact
paint-
picnic tables.
right, but can they be painted with some kind of waterproof paint so they don't, the seats
Yeah.
don't warp and. pinch your
I
butt?
believe DPW did paint them with waterproof paint. I just think
They put a new seat on.
they could probably put new board, replace the boards on the
Replace the boards,
seats.
yeah.
That would be cheaper.
Yeah, I don't know if all the boards are
No,
warped.
just to replace, because they used to do that with the old picnic tables.
Okay,
They would break
Yeah.
or people would carve into them and they would just
okay,
replace.
I just was wondering.
We can. I know that they're getting pretty bad and
They could rebuild them.
They just did a whole bunch of them.
Wouldn't take much.
wood's actually not as expensive as it was about a year and a half ago.
Right,
So
right.
It's starting to level out a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
Thanks, Vince.
Well,
Infrastructure and Asset Management, Ms. Resdick Showalter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 5 items, but they'll probably go pretty quickly. First item, policies. We write them, but where do we find them? As our borough manager Stephanie alluded to earlier, we're working on a system for organizing them very accessibly for everybody to find, so that as things come up, everyone can find them either physically in binders, electronically somehow, or some combination thereof. So more on that to be coming soon. Next, our committee was touching base just about the MOU that we wrote last year for maintenance of our public dock with Still City Rowing. I reached out to their director to see if they had any input for approving it again for this year. I did not hear back yet. So,
Is that Will?
Will
Yeah.
Brown, yeah. So once we hear back, hopefully that will be a straightforward process to continue that agreement, which I think has worked out well, just in the first year, last year. Next item is hanging baskets. I know there was a wide variety of opinions on whether or not the borough should heed, the garden club's request to assist or fully take on the cost of, watering the baskets this year. It is with deep regret I learned recently that the garden club will not be doing the hanging baskets at all this year in 2023. On behalf of all council, I just want to state how much we appreciate all the garden club's efforts throughout the town to beautify our town, and all the wonderful community groups that we have doing great work here. And we do look forward to seeing their other projects come to fruition this year. The next item is reviewing the cleaning duties for the bids in your packet, as well as in the email. Everyone should have received a revised version of the cleaning bid. Our committee reviewed this as well. I think it's fairly straightforward at this point. Thank you to Vince for remembering to add on the Cribsfield Pavilion. So that will now be routinely cleaned going forward. We just wanted to have one more chance for anyone to offer any input on this if you see anything that's missing or,
I do have some questions about the Cribsfield,
Go
because
ahead.
I know last time we talked about that. I mean, this cleaning company is gonna go up there daily?
No,
No,
Am I reading this wrong or?
yeah, daily means twice per week. So when we put daily, that means they come. Their cleaning company's contracted come 2 times per week. So when we put daily, they have to do that each time they come in. If it's weekly, they only have to do it once a week, and if it's monthly, then of course monthly. It's an odd way to use daily.
Yeah,
Well, I guess another question I had was because doesn't now DPW clean it and,
yeah, they hate it.
well, I'm just asking if,
I don't think the DPW should be cleaning toilets. I should think they should be filling bottles.
yeah,
And that's the issue, we should, if we have a cleaning company for the town, they should be cleaning. If we have DPW, they should be doing public works.
Yeah, and I don't see 12. Oh, I
It's on
see.
it.
Okay, now I do have a question though, if.
Mhm.
Cribs is being used and the bathrooms and the facilities are being used daily by Bruce, is twice a week enough to be emptying the trash and cleaning them?
In the policies, it is on the people who are using the market rent, the concession stand and that out to do the spot cleaning.
Okay.
And restock, or they get, that's why we have, last year we weren't collecting deposits. This year we are collecting deposits, so that way if stuff is damaged or if somebody doesn't follow the policies and leaves the place a wreck, we can keep their deposit, and then we can use that deposit to pay the cleaning company or DPW.
so we're gonna expect,
But
are
that's
we,
for one
good.
time use, right?
Yes, when we
What
were,
about like RAs gonna use
when
it?
we were working on that policy for concession stand usage for Twin Borough, that will be, that's why we haven't done that policy yet. It's gonna be such an encompassing policy.
Yeah, 'cause we're gonna have to have a policy for one-time use and labor.
Yes.
And they did send us a check,
Good.
a deposit check.
RA.
RA did.
So I guess my next question is, what about time like right now?
They wouldn't.
So
Yeah,
I
so it would
mean,
only
there's
be
no
like-
dates, so there's no,
Right,
add dates.
well, I mean, I'm just saying that should be added.
there's
You
no there's no reason for them to clean them if they're not.
And that
being
should also be
used.
reflected in their bid, that this building is 365 days, up there is only about 5
What,
months.
April to,
April,
November.
Yeah, I'm just saying that stuff I noticed it didn't,
no, those are all good, fair points.
I
So,
have a question on the Cribsfield,
Mhm.
this is 2 times per week, right?
right,
Right.
They're gonna come, they're restocking all supplies, what if? So it's gonna be, so Monday they come in, they restock it with, paper towels and toilet paper. What if it's out by Wednesday and if they don't come until Thursday?
Well, that's still also in the,
Vendors.
in the park permits and policies.
Right,
If there's that table on the back, and that will still be enforced, that will still be. Whoever unlocks it in the morning, whether if it's during the week, I believe it's DPW unlocks the park in the morning.
Right.
They're supposed to look in the bathroom, if they're out of toilet paper, DPW can just do that then.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they won't be needing to mop. Like poop off the walls.
That was my-
That's what the cleaning company.
That was my next question. What
Yes.
happens, if the,
I mean, if it's-
urine everywhere on the seats and,
If
I
it,
mean,
if it's like the day before, if the cleaning company does it every Friday, and DPW sees that like Friday morning, they could. Probably just ride
well-
with it, let the cleaning company deal with it when they come in, especially if they open the park and the cleaning company normally comes here at 10, and they're opening the park at 9. Then I wouldn't want DPW to mop all this stuff up, and then an hour later, the cleaning company come out and be like, oh, they did our job for us. So, but if it's like 3 days away, they obviously have to clean it, if it's,
who's that, DPW?
yes,
Well, then that's when you're gonna run into a problem.
why?
If you're gonna have DPW do it 2 days and you have a
Well, they're
cleaning
already doing
company,
So,
but they're not, but a contractor isn't now. A contractor doesn't go up there to the park now.
No,
What he's
I think we
saying
need to
is
tweak it a little more.
if there's. First off, if somebody's pooping on the walls.
yes.
Don't let them in.
That's a bigger problem.
But it wasn't somebody do something horrible, like or something happened.
We haven't run into that yet, but
You'd be surprised how often it happens.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Trust
What
me.
I'm saying is
It
that's-
happens with restaurants.
Yeah,
like-
that's biohazard.
Yeah, no, trust me.
There's a whole other set of issues we gotta think about.
Oh, I mean, DPW can literally lock the bathroom.
Yeah,
And be like, we're not letting anybody in there until the cleaning company comes later today. And, but obviously, if it's the next day or 2 days away.
I just think I think you could potentially run into a problem with DPW.
well, that's
And-
my, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And, you know, one day you want us to do it, one day you don't. They're, you know, I just think I think Cribs is gonna be a
so what we're saying is DPW does the spot checks when they unlock. They don't clean unless there's a disaster, and if it's bad, they lock.
Correct. And if they're out of toilet paper, they just. go with toilet
I don't think they have a problem with that, but
paper. No, that's
yeah.
exactly.
if
what
there's
we're
a
saying.
disaster, just lock the door till the cleaning company comes.
Exactly.
And I
Care if
have-
it's 2 days later.
And put a note up though, or a
Yeah.
sign,
And I have,
They would let Stephanie know.
but you would still need to put a sign up so people know why it's
yeah,
locked.
yeah.
the issue with the jail cells, that's gonna be 2 days per week also. cleaning?
That's what it is now.
What if you get somebody in there that drunk and vomits through the whole place? Can we call them to come out and clean?
I guess you would have.
I'm
to.
just asking.
I
we
mean,
need to-
here's my question, I mean.
Yep.
Yeah, I would think so, my question now is. The first one you guys are all looking at is no different than what we currently contract.
Yeah, I was gonna
for.
say, what do we do now if that happens? Do you know, Mayor?
No, I honestly don't.
Okay.
I
would
guess we
hope-
call a
hope
cleaning
you could
company.
call.
But what have we done in the past?
Call a
That's what I'm
cleaning
saying,
company.
like under the current contract.
Yeah.
Has it ever happened?
No, but it could.
Right.
Well, I mean, anything, there always is a way you can call them in and say,
Well, I think,
We had this
they may
issue.
say, well, that's not in our contract, to come in unexpectedly. I'm just trying to cover all bases.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
that's, I guess that, but the question you have to ask yourself is then how do we,
Put in there, if we have an emergency, we need to be able to call you. Put
But,
it in.
but that would have to be in the contract, because you'd have. to-
Yeah, so what-
Because they always
They're
have
not
to have-
coming in for
they-
They're not coming in for free.
They have to have a different wage for that, yeah.
Uh-huh.
and they're also gonna have a different wage, because if it's vomit, anything like that, we are looking at biohazard, it's gonna be. a
Oh, they
whole-
charge you,
It's a whole different cleanup.
most definitely. Most definitely.
I will put both of those in.
Those are all great points. Thank you. Is there anything anybody else noted?
Not really, no.
And I guess if it's biohazard up at Cribs, that comes out of, and we have to call them in, that comes out of their deposit.
Yeah.
Right.
exactly. Well, I mean, if it's rented that day, but if it's just,
Is it,
if it just happens in the course of the park being open. and
I
nobody
don't
has
know,
to-
because I didn't really pay too close attention to the bathroom. Could they go in with a garden hose?
Yes.
Is
All
there a
stainless.
drain?
Everything's
It's
stainless.
stainless, so they could actually go with a garden hose and a
And there's
brush.
a hose hookup outside,
Right,
and there's a hot water slop sink right in the middle room that has a
so
long hose.
without a lot of work, it could be cleaned up.
I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think the cells are the same way. The floors are sloped, so where they could go in
I think so.
and wash it
And
down.
you're better betting than garden hose is a pressure washer with a disinfectant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they're gonna do, because if it's any.
Well,
kind
he's
of
talking about like
virus, they're
DPW had to do
Yeah,
it,
but
if
that's
they
what I mean.
wanted to do it.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying, but they could do it with a pressure washer and a disinfectant in a pressure washer, so. you-
Let's
like
hope,
spraying-
let's hope no one explodes in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yes, let's.
Okay,
All right,
this,
great.
this looks really, really a lot of thought put into this.
You know what, also, real quick, with the, kitchen up there. I think after every event, when the DPW is up there, they need to just double check the refrigerator. Make sure there's nothing left behind.
Make sure there's no messes also, because they would be the ones that would
Right.
let her know about.
And then
if
they wouldn't get the
back.
deposit back.
Cause we had mentioned that when we put the refrigerator in there, that they would go up after every event, to make sure nothing's left in there, because a week later, everything's spoiled and.
Yeah, I think that's, part of what DPW has to do is.
No, I'm
go up
just-
there and
I'm
open-
just
inspect it.
It's anybody, I mean, in the park.
Well, sometimes
policy,
it's the
it states
police on the weekends. it would be
Whenever
the police.
whoever has the concession stand, whenever it's over, the police or the DPW go up to relock it. They have to spot check it so that's like a kid, so they can let Stephanie know
Right.
whether they're getting a deposit back or not. So that is part of their job in the policy, is they have to look over everything and make sure everything's where it's supposed to be, everything's clean, everything's empty.
They're gonna do that anyway when they lock it up at night. They gotta
I
look
mean,
at the
that's part of
bathrooms, they can't, they gotta make sure no one's in there.
Right,
Right,
Or they'll lock a kid in or something, so.
Yes.
They know that.
Anyone that rents the facility up there. Do they have the responsibility to clean everything before they leave? They have to-
Yes.
yeah, they have a list of stuff they have to do, right.
Yes.
And I actually, last year, I printed out instructions.
Oh, good.
I printed out the park
You
policies,
wrote everything
and
down.
then I
Mhm.
printed out a list of closing procedures for them, just reminders, like make sure that we have a hot dog roller up there. In one of the closing procedures is to unplug the hot dog roller before you leave. Because they're just little knobs and we don't wanna fire, so I
Okay.
wanna make sure that the
Yep.
things that produce heat up there are unplugged. So they can't accidentally be turned on because somebody bumped into them.
Stephanie, you'll mark them other few things down. Everybody else is pretty good with everything so far on that?
Yep.
Very good.
Yep, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Very constructive comments. Last but not least is reviewing the landscaping duties for the bids. So also in your packet, you have your revised landscaping, borough, park and facility scope of work. Thank you, Stephanie, for putting this all together.
Can I ask what is different about this compared to
Nothing.
before? Oh, it's the same.
I
Okay.
just wanted everybody to see it and make sure they all knew before I sent it out.
I know you did a lot of research though, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you for
Can
doing
I
that.
just make one suggestion on this, the Doughboy? Even though let's say they weeded last week and this week is Memorial Day, Monday, I would like to see them. While they're in town, just double check everything to make it perfect.
Now, the question becomes with that, since it's an every 2 week thing. They're only gonna be in town about like every 2 weeks. How do you want us to deal with that?
I don't know, but I just think in the past with the other company, we've had weeds in there. And yeah, they were here, but the weeds
Do
come
we pick
fast.
the dates or?
Well, it's every 2 weeks starting May 1st, so you just look at the calendar
Okay.
and drop that way.
You know what, maybe just talk to them, cause Memorial Day, can you drive by, just if they're in. If they're in the area, I don't know where else they do other than it's gonna be Verona. But we would, like the Doughboy, make sure that it's in tip top shape.
Or
If they do it on the
They could
26th,
come that last week maybe of May.
if we
Sometime.
started the second week of May, then that would put them in town the week before Memorial Day.
Alright,
right, if
Okay.
they do it on the 26th, that'd be perfect, just a couple days.
Well, but then again, the second week of May, you got weeds starting to come in the first weekend of April.
Yeah, but if they
With
do
the
it at the end
weather.
of that weekday, that would be pretty early. but
I guess the problem is it's never gonna work out.
It's never gonna work out perfect.
Perfectly, cause of
See
this.
see what they say. They may say, you know what, we'll drive through town just to
They
check.
might say, hey, if you don't care, if we're, you know, if you don't care, next week's our week. We're gonna miss that. We're gonna come in the week
Couple
after.
days late.
Yeah,
Shuffle the numbers.
it probably can all be worked around.
Just see what they say,
Yeah.
you know. It's a priority that we want the Doughboy, because we have, 100 people there plus.
So everything else is the same as the last contract. All right.
So this is gonna get sent out now? Okay, great.
What else with paper? Where are we at on the agenda? I lost my agenda.
Community development.
Oh, yeah, next is community, or was you done, Trish?
Yes, that is all I have for tonight.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Community Development Committee, Tim Long.
Yes, we met, the other Monday, last month. Second one.
Oh, it's in here.
Yeah, well, it's 20, and we started to discuss, job descriptions for, code enforcement officers. I know that a lot of things, we're using a company now, but there's not a lot going on, so we're trying to make a job description that kind of encompasses more than just code enforcement, so that we can have a full-time person here.
Mhm.
Instead of a part-time person.
Mhm.
So I sent everybody, a very lengthy job description for a code enforcer. This is actually the mashup of a couple different places, that I found and, Nancy has found. I thought these were the best versions. And, I gave it to everybody to see what their opinions are on what we should go forward doing. I know it's gonna have a couple more discussions before we advertise it and get it out there. To hire one, but I wanted to get the ball rolling. So that we could have one.
Bless you.
Excuse me, thank
So
you.
I'd like to hear anybody's opinion on, what I send you, or if we could just, you guys get a little bit more time to review it and, maybe discuss it next month at our workshop.
So I had already emailed you that I thought this was super thorough. Really a lot of research put into this description. But I was wondering what your thoughts were on spinning this to, instead of being code enforcement, which to me has like kind of like a negative kind of like policing tone, to like something akin to community development officer that would still have code enforcement as like a primary thing, especially initially, but hopefully in time it could grow to encompass other efforts that aren't just kind of like citations. Hopefully we get to a point where people are kind of maintaining and we can expand to include, more beautification and more just community development and just kind of, more positive things versus citations.
I don't disagree with that. Like I said, I think community development is a very generic term.
Yeah,
And that's why I get kind of confused when I'm holding my meetings, because I don't know, like, community development could be literally everything that everybody's doing on this dais. Is part of developing our community. But yeah, I do think that it needs to just be more than just the, code enforcement officer.
And I think you have to be concerned that, since code enforcement is such a vital part of it,
right,
you need somebody with experience in that.
true,
Where if you broaden it too much,
right, you lose that
you
focus,
might get somebody that's learning on the job and doesn't really have an interest in it.
sure.
Also, we should check the legality of it. Because code enforcer is a title, it's a title position, and with that,
That you
like
have
Mike
authority.
has said, like, he's a code enforcer, he's not allowed to get out of his car, he's not allowed to, so. You might have to actually, like, if you're a sheriff of Allegheny County, you can't say, I'm chief officer. You can't change the name of your title legally. So we might have to legally call him a code enforcer, because when he visits somebody's house, he can't say, oh, I'm this friendly, nice, fluffy. He has to legally by court say, I am a code enforcer. I am here to issue this paper to you.
We can check with Mr.
So we-
Alexander.
It might not be, I understand the sentiment. I think it's a great idea, because it's a more positive way to look at it. But legally, I'm not sure if you're allowed to do that.
Sure.
You might wanna ask Greg.
I mean, regardless if we can change the name or not, we're gonna encompass more of a community development theme into our code.
And I don't think you'd have a problem doing that. I mean. If you just need to make sure, the code enforcement can do all the occupancies and all that stuff. And
Yeah,
that-
that's all the stuff I think is in the.
Yeah, it's all in there.
thing. There's zoning, occupancy, pretty much, we're looking for somebody who is well-rounded in a lot of different areas of the.
So what's the next?
The next step is, like I said, I just gave everybody this yesterday, it was a tedious process to get it all lined up, but, I wanna, just everybody look over for the next month, we'll bring it back to the next workshop meeting with everybody with some notes on, any ideas
Sounds good.
of things that might need to be taken out, or things that might be added to this.
Should we ask Greg to look at this to see if
Yeah.
things in this job description are legal in Pennsylvania?
Cause
Cause I did take this from multiple other states.
Well, that's what I meant,
Taking all of
so
it.
some of the stuff in here, he might be like, oh, you're not allowed to do this anymore,
Yes.
we have to take this out, so
Exactly.
it's the legality.
I think we get, yeah. Or do we wait to get all our questions in and then give it to Craig?
I don't, we
I
might,
may be too cold.
we might wanna give, yeah.
Yeah, let him put his on it and everybody.
Cause we
Okay.
can spin our wheels on stuff that isn't even legal, and he might say, oh, why'd you waste time on that, and
Right,
throw it out.
true.
I've learned a lot in the last few months about things that are legal and illegal and things you can do or can't do.
This was just to get the ball rolling. I wanted everybody to know. I know this was.
No, you did a good job.
Put on and
Number
they
one.
wanted
Both of you.
to
Yeah.
for. So I want everybody to know that we're working on it. It's a process and it will happen as soon as we can.
And just to be clear, this is the job description, but you wouldn't necessarily put all this out in an advertisement.
No, it has
Try-
to be
you'd have to-
a page long. of-
You'd have to
Less
really.
paragraph
condense
long.
This is just be what we gave somebody whenever they.
When they acquired, yeah.
All right. Is that it? Is that it, Tim?
That's all I have.
Very good, Tim. That's a nice packet you guys put together. Thank you. Okay. Action items we're down to. We have 4 bids here, 3 bids here.
They're actually 3 bills, same company.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah. 3 bids, the same company for fertilizing the lawns at Cribs, at the Borough Building, and at Riverbank Park. They do this every year. It's a 4-step program. We do this every year for the parks and the
I'll
borough.
make a motion to accept the bids, like I said, under the thing,
Well-
they let us know when they're. Gonna be here, so that we can close the parks.
Motion by Mr. Long.
I will make sure of that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Floda. Any questions?
I do have one question.
Okay.
Why, under the borough building, is there drug control and lime in the other 2 places?
He told me that.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
It has something to do with the grass.
It might be that. The other ones are fenced in parks with playgrounds and. Kids.
Okay.
It's
I mean-
fine. I don't know.
I'll check.
And I have a question as well.
Mhm.
You know-
Ready, you,
Oh, I'm
you go to
sorry.
yours?
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
she's gonna check on it.
Okay.
So no one has an
Okay.
answer, so that's.
Nancy?
Yeah, how does this compare to last year and the year
It's the
before?
exact same amount.
Really? That's nice. Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Passed.
So we do prepay so we can save the 5%, right? Okay,
Absolutely.
all right.
Next thing we have, what's that?
That's only $200.
Yeah,
Well, you know,
we can get more nickel penny candy.
We have $201.06 now.
The next thing we have is a motion to approve Sable Kennel Animal Control contract for 2023. Is this the same contract?
Yeah, same
Stephanie?
contract, same price.
Same pricing as everything?
Has there been anybody in the community that has had any issues with their services?
No, I mean, no phone calls, no nothing. When we call them, they come. I mean, I can look next year, but the only other company that does it, I ethically can't sign a contract.
Yeah, so
Uh,
that's why we changed, I think.
Well,
We had trouble getting to people before, if I remember right, Dave?
they were also euthanizing the dogs within, I think, 48 hours, where Stable said that they would shelter them, find shelters for any animal, dog or cat. And they also, in the contract back then, once a week, they were to come into the borough building or to drive through the borough and stop at the borough building. Honestly, I don't know if they have done that. I meant to ask Annette that, because she's the one that's always here, if they do come in and leave a report.
We get a report from them?
We used to get a report from them.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because the joke was, and one dead dog, almost every month, it was like, really, we have a dead dog every month?
Yeah, yeah. That would be a lot of dead dogs.
Well,
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
yeah, it is.
It feels sad.
But, in their past contracts, before all of you were even here, I'm talking, maybe 8 years ago or so, it was in the contract where they drove through Verona and then they stopped at the borough building just so we knew that they were in time.
That's not in this contract.
Stephanie, when does our contract expire with them?
It's expired.
It's expired. Could we check into that, see if,
Yeah.
and then we can hold off on this for tonight? Or do we wanna,
You would have to go, to look at the old contract, I don't even know if we have it, you'd have to go back,
Because this is the exact same contract you signed
last
when's last time?
year,
2 years ago.
2 years? This is-
Yeah, I'm talking when Bonnie and Mark Stanton were borough managers. And we're going back probably right before Jerry, 14, 13, 2013, 14. It was in that, those contracts back then, probably from 2010 to, I would say, 2015.
But we didn't have these people in 2010.
Well, I'm just giving you a timeline when, and so it had to be somewhere between 10 and 15.
Can we look into that and we can do this next month? I mean,
It might have been 2013 when we
They
signed the
send us
contract.
reports
Okay.
every month when they send us reports like steers or whatever they've had to do for the month. They always send us those.
They picking up deers?
Yeah, they'll pick up,
well, that's
Really?
what
I didn't think they did that.
yeah,
they
pick up
picked it
deers.
up. They actually, somebody called them, they come out and picked one up out on the state road, the boulevard.
We can
Yeah,
make
'cause
them,
we had a discussion of who pays for that. State-
We pay for it.
State road.
We're
Yeah.
paying them.
No, but I mean, yeah, but should they be billing this?
They should call the state to
Yeah,
come
they
and
have
pick
to
it
call
up.
the state
That's why
from now on.
Right.
Yeah,
well, we could make a motion to table the motion, and that way we don't have to rescind it.
There was never a
completely.
motion made yet on this.
No,
Oh. I'm
We didn't
sorry.
make a motion on this yet.
You said they give us reports, right?
yeah, and like, they give us reports like deers and stuff like that. I mean,
How often do they give you reports?
whenever they bill us,
Once a month?
yeah.
Well, like I said, it used to be once a week they drove through and gave a report.
I mean, I can ask them to put that in the contract. I'm just thinking that's going to increase the cost threefold.
Like I said, it was in the contract.
Well, a lot of things go in and go out too, It changes.
So it wasn't-
I think you might be,
So
Dave, you might
wouldn't it
be,
just be that we need to read the month of report?
We always had a monthly,
Well, she said that it is
They-
we're getting a monthly
They
report.
have to come in and they have to do something. They send us a report.
but we always read the report, so I
It's
haven't
a
heard of,
little morbid.
Well, I mean, that's on us then.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So as long as they're still providing a
they're
monthly
providing a
report,
report.
we just need to start putting it on the agenda to
right,
read
it
it.
was always on the agenda.
Okay.
that the-
That shouldn't really have anything to do with
contract.
to approving the contract. That's on us.
I mean, 99% of the time it's a deer or something like that.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Long to
I'll
approve this
second it,
agreement.
As long as we start, we'll
I will,
take the mayor's request into consideration and we start reading the
I
report.
will find,
Second by Mr. Floata. Any questions?
and I will make sure that we get that report.
Okay. Very good. All in favor? Against? Passed. Thank you.
I just don't want to be the one to read.
I'll read it. I'll read it. I don't care.
It seems like bad news
Borough
everybody.
manager always read it.
Nope.
Uh,
Denham will make me very sad.
I'll read it.
Look, Ray, everything. You would have got it.
The last thing we have here on action items is a motion to approve a resolution to authorize the borough manager to apply for a strategic management planning grant.
I'll make that motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
Motion by Dr. Carpenter, second by Mr. Craig. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Passed. Thank you. The next thing is announcement and information. Mrs. Provenza.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Newsletter, we're taking ads and articles now, and they are due Monday, May 1st. This will be the summer edition, which covers June, July, and August. So, you can think about getting them in soon. We'll really appreciate it. Chamber of Commerce, I spoke to President Stephanie Garibay, and news notices are being mailed out. And you do not have to be a business owner to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce here. And to join, you would just email Stephanie at her email address, which is sgaribay16@gmail.com. And next chamber meeting is going to be Tuesday, March 21 at 7 p.m. here in the Borough Building. Historical Society, next meeting is going to be held on Thursday, March 16th at 7 p.m. here in the Borough Building, and the speaker to be announced at the next meeting. Twin Borough Ministries, the community dinner is going to be held on Wednesday, March 29 at the Methodist Church from 4:30 to 6:30, and it will be hosted by Riverside Union Church. For soup orders, call Shirley Davis at 412-828-3412. And Ray, do you want me to do A-Long too?
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. The Spring Educational Conference is going to be held at Seven Springs, April 13th through the 16th. And deadline to register is Friday, March 24th. In closing, are there any questions or comments? And if not, this will conclude my reports.
Very good. Thank you, Mrs. Provenza.
Yes.
This time we're comments from the public on public related items. Please approach the podium or raise your virtual hand. Clearly state your name and address. Limit your comments to 3 minutes, please. Do we have anybody? Approach the podium, please.
Hi, it's Sherry, 759 East Railroad. I just want to say, I think on the chamber, besides contact Stephanie through her email, you can also get on the website. We have a contact form now. So people can type in the contact form. That will go directly to either Stephanie or Curtis to get that membership. And also in the last chamber meeting, someone suggested, since there's no more basket, we are going to have a competition for stores to boost up their storefront with flowers. Where the chamber is working on the detail, we're gonna offer a nice cash prize. It's sponsored cash prize, so that's not money come out of the chamber. So we'll have all the detail by next chamber meeting.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Nobody virtual?
There are no virtual hands raised.
At this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn. So moved by Mr. Long, second by Mrs.
You guys
Provenza.
don't even need to do it. I just put their names down now.
Any questions? All in favor? Against? Passed. Thank you, everybody, for visiting with us tonight.
It just depends.